After my car accident, my wife and children promised they wouldn't leave me alone, but they went on a trip to the beach to distract themselves from the stress. I was immobile, unable to get up. When I called my wife, she simply said, "We are not your servants. You'll grow up with this." I only replied, "Thank you for showing me how much I'm worth to you." 15 days later, I made a decision they never imagined. 40 messages have already arrived, pleading, "Please answer. We beg you." I woke up in a white room with a constant beep accompanying me. The fluorescent lights blinded me as I tried to remember what had happened. A serious-faced doctor appeared in my field of vision, holding a clipboard. The news wasn't good. Multiple spinal fracture, severe nerve damage, temporary, perhaps permanent immobility. I remember his exact words: "The road will be long and you will need constant support from your family." My family, my wife Laura, and our 2 children, 17-year-old Matteo and 15-year-old Sophia. Before the accident, we were what many would consider a normal family. I worked as a regional manager in a logistics company. I traveled frequently but always returned with gifts and anecdotes. Laura was a teacher at a private school, always concerned about the children's education. We lived in a house with a garden in a decent suburb. We celebrated birthdays. We went on vacation once a year, the typical middle-class life that feigns happiness. I remember the day I was discharged. Laura sobbed while holding my hand in the ambulance. "Don't worry, honey. We'll be with you every step of the way." The kids are also eager to help. Matteo even canceled his trip with friends. Sophia says she can take care of the cooking. The lump in my throat prevented me from speaking. I could only nod, grateful to have them. The first days at home were a rude awakening to my new reality. The orthopedic bed installed in the living room, the portable toilet, the humiliation of needing help for the most basic functions. Not being able to scratch your nose when it itches, not being able to change position when something hurts, not being able to clean yourself after using the bathroom. Dignity becomes a distant memory. At first, everything seemed to go as promised. Laura followed a strict routine to administer my medications. Matteo helped me perform the basic exercises the physiotherapist had recommended. Sophia prepared meals and read me articles or news to distract me. But soon cracks began to appear in this facade of unconditional support. It started with small details, Laura taking longer and longer to respond when I called her, sighs of annoyance when I asked to go to the bathroom right after I had just settled in. Matteo started going out more, returning late and avoiding eye contact. Sophia stopped reading to me, limiting herself to leaving food and leaving quickly. The atmosphere at home became tense, charged with unspoken words and silent reproaches. One night, after a particularly painful physiotherapy session, I heard Laura talking on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice sounded lively, as I hadn't heard it in weeks. "Yes, it would be perfect. A week at the beach is just what we need." "No, it's not like he can complain. He practically can't move. The nurse will come 3 times a week for the basics. Of course, he'll manage. He's an adult, not a baby. We have the right to rest. You know this has been hell for everyone." The silence that followed that conversation was more painful than any fracture. My mind replayed her words over and over while I lay motionless in my bed, unable even to turn to hide the tears that began to well up. Hell for them? And what about me? I didn't choose this. During dinner, I noticed the kids unusually animated. They were talking about what clothes to pack, what activities to do, not a single glance in my direction, as if I were just another piece of furniture in the room, an obstacle to avoid. Finally, Laura approached with a tense smile and sat on the edge of my bed. There was something in her eyes I didn't recognize: guilt, impatience, resentment. "We've been thinking, and I think we could use a little break. My sister has that beach house she offered us a while ago. It would only be a few days for the kids to distract themselves a bit. They've been very stressed with school and with this whole situation." Her words floated in the air between us, loaded with hidden meaning. This whole situation. I was the situation, the problem, the burden, the obstacle to their happiness. And what will happen to me? I can't stay alone. I can barely. I tried to explain, my voice broken by fear and disbelief. Laura interrupted with a tone she had never used with me before. We've already arranged everything. A nurse will come 3 times a week. We'll leave prepared meals. You have the phone within reach for emergencies. It will only be 10 days. It's not the end of the world either. 10 days. 10 days immobile, dependent, vulnerable. 10 days of loneliness and abandonment disguised as a well-deserved rest. That night, while the house slept, I heard laughter coming from the bedroom. Laughter and enthusiastic plans. I heard my son say, "It will be like the old days before Dad." And then more laughter. Then I understood. For them, I no longer existed as a person. I was a problem, a burden, a before and after. The morning they left for the beach was when everything changed forever. They had breakfast laughing, making plans about water activities and restaurants they wanted to try. I remained in my bed, watching them pack enthusiastically as if they were freeing themselves from a heavy burden, as if that burden were me. Laura approached when they finished loading the car. "Well, everything is ready. The fridge has prepared food for several days. The nurse will come Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I left your medications organized by day and time in this box." Her tone was practical, like someone leaving instructions for caring for a plant. There was no warmth, no guilt, no doubt, just efficiency. "You can't do this to me, please, Laura. What if I need something urgent? What if I have a complication? I can barely move to reach a glass of water." My voice sounded pathetic, even to myself, but the fear was real and overwhelming. Laura's gaze hardened. "You have the phone within reach. If something serious happens, you call emergencies. We have already sacrificed 3 months of our lives taking care of you day and night. We need this break." Sacrificed? 3 months of sacrifice compared to 15 years of marriage? Compared to the 2 children we raised together? Compared to the countless times I had been there for them? The kids didn't even say goodbye properly. A quick bye, Dad, from the door without looking me in the eye, as if it were an uncomfortable obligation, a formality before their freedom. The door closed, and silence invaded the house. A heavy, oppressive silence interrupted only by the distant sound of laughter as the car started. My first day of 10 in complete solitude. The first hours were of disbelief. Part of me kept thinking they would reconsider, that they would turn around, that they would understand the cruelty of what they were doing. But the phone didn't ring. There were no messages asking how I was. Nothing. The first day passed slowly. I managed to reach the water bottle and sandwiches they had left nearby. The pain in my back intensified with every little movement. The pain medication was on the nightstand, but each pill represented a monumental effort, a physical punishment for the simple act of wanting relief. By the second day, the reality of my situation became evident. Food and water were running out faster than expected. The phone remained silent. I tried to call Laura in the afternoon when the loneliness became unbearable. 3 rings, and she finally answered. Laughter and beach music could be heard in the background. Beach, happiness, freedom. "Everything okay?" Her voice sounded irritated, impatient. "I can barely reach the food and water, and I need to go to the bathroom, but I can't move enough. The nurse isn't coming until tomorrow. I can't hold on that long." The silence on the other side was brief but revealing. Then I heard her sigh of annoyance. "Look, we're 5 hours away. We can't just come back because you have a little difficulty. Use the urinal we left nearby. Try a little harder to reach things. We are not your servants. You'll grow up with this." The words hit me like stab wounds. We are not your servants. As if asking for basic help in my condition were an abuse, a whim. As if my temporary disability were a choice, a way to manipulate them. "Thank you for showing me how much I'm worth to you," was all I could say before hanging up. There was no response, no apology, no hint of remorse. That night, I wet the bed. I couldn't help it. The urinal was too far away, my muscles too weak for the necessary movement. The humiliation was total. I stayed there in my own urine, unable to move, with no one to help me. Tears flowed silently until exhaustion overcame me. The nurse found the disaster the next day. She didn't ask questions as she cleaned and changed the sheets. Her professional silence was a small mercy amid so much humiliation. When she finished, she looked at me with eyes that reflected more humanity than those of my own family. "Are you really alone here every day until they come back?" I nodded, unable to speak without breaking down. "That's not right. Not right at all." She left her personal number. "Call me if you need anything, even if it's not a visiting day." That small act of kindness from a stranger contrasted brutally with my family's abandonment. That day, something changed inside me. Sadness transformed into something colder, more calculated. As I stared at the ceiling, I began to see clearly the truth of my marriage, of my family. I remembered all the times Laura had shown this selfishness before, but that I had ignored. How she was absent when my mother was sick because she had too much stress at work. How the children had grown up imitating her indifference to other people's problems. How it was always me who gave in, who understood, who forgave. On the fourth day without them, the nurse brought more food and stayed a little longer. She helped me bathe properly, to change positions to avoid the ulcers that were beginning to form. Before leaving, she placed the phone closer, in case you need something, or someone, not just for emergencies. That night, in the solitude of my disability, I picked up the phone, but I didn't call Laura or the kids. I called a number I had saved a long time ago just in case, the number of Ricardo Mendez, an old friend from university who is now a lawyer. "Ricardo, it's Carlos. I need your help. It's about my family situation." The call lasted almost an hour. By the time I hung up, a plan was beginning to form, a plan that would change everything. The following days were an exercise in will and patience. I meticulously documented everything on the phone's voice recorder, the dates, the unattended hours, the ignored calls. I took pictures of my condition. The nurse, outraged by my situation, agreed to sign a statement about what she had found. Meanwhile, I kept calling Laura. Brief conversations that I carefully recorded where she unknowingly revealed the conscious negligence, the lack of real concern. "How are you enjoying the vacation while I'm barely surviving here?" I asked in one call. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. The nurse goes 3 times a week. It's not like you're abandoned in the desert. Besides, we needed this time. Taking care of you has been exhausting for everyone." Every word was further evidence. Every excuse a confession. By the 8th day, I had also contacted my sister Elena, with whom I had lost contact due to disagreements with Laura. Elena cried on the phone when she learned of my situation. "I'm going there right now. I can't believe they left you like this. I don't have a better plan, but I need your help to execute it." The night before they returned, with the help of Elena and the nurse, I set the first phase of the plan in motion. By the time the family car parked in front of the house, I would no longer be there, and what they would find in my place would change our lives forever. You're right, I made another mistake in the narration. The title and context indicate that the protagonist is telling a story that has already happened in the past, but I wrote parts as if they were happening in the present tense. I'm going to correct Chapter 3, keeping the narration in the past tense, as befits someone recounting an experience they've already lived. 15 days after they abandoned me to go to the beach, I made the decision that would change our lives forever. With the help of Elena, my sister, and the nurse who had witnessed my humiliation, I disappeared from the house I once called home. It wasn't easy. The move was physically painful but emotionally liberating. Elena had kept her apartment in Valencia adapted for when I could visit her. Irony of life, now it would serve as my refuge. When Laura and the kids returned from their vacation, tanned and rested, I knew exactly what they found: absence. The empty orthopedic bed, the clean and unused portable toilet. No sign of my presence except for a letter I left on Laura's pillow. In that letter, I detailed everything. The recordings of our calls where she denied me help, the photos the nurse had taken of my condition, signed statements from those who helped me during their absence. The video where Laura openly admitted that they had left me alone to go on vacation. I spared no details about what those 10 days meant to me, the humiliation of wetting myself without being able to do anything, the hunger when I couldn't reach the food, the fear that something serious would happen while being completely alone and helpless, and above all, the painful revelation of how little I meant to the people I thought loved me. The days following their return were, as Ricardo, my lawyer, told me, a descent into chaos for them. He presented them with the documents for a divorce on grounds of abandonment and negligence. The police took statements about the abandonment of a vulnerable person. The neighbors, who now knew the whole story, treated them with the contempt they deserved. Laura desperately tried to contact me, calls, messages, emails, all unanswered on my part. Carlos, please answer. It was a terrible mistake. We were exhausted. We weren't thinking clearly. We need you. Let us explain. I read her first message and deleted it immediately. With each passing day, her messages became more frantic. The children are devastated. The school is investigating us. My job is at risk when this comes out. Please, at least tell us where you are if you're okay. I noticed how her concerns always returned to her reputation, to her well-being. Not once did she ask if I was receiving adequate medical care, if I was in pain, if I felt alone. Meanwhile, in Valencia, I experienced a transformation. The adapted apartment that Elena had gotten near the sea allowed me to continue my recovery with dignity. The intensive rehabilitation that I could afford with half of the family savings, which I had legally withdrawn as a preventive measure, yielded surprising results. I've never seen anyone progress so fast with this type of injury. It's like you have extra motivation, my physiotherapist told me, surprised by my progress. I smiled, holding the parallel bars as I took another careful but firm step. I have it. Every step I take is a step further away from who I used to be, from who allowed them to treat me like that. The first weeks in Valencia were physically difficult, but emotionally liberating. Elena had contacted old friends from university who lived in the city. Little by little, I built a network of genuine support, not based on obligations, but on real connections. People who visited me because they wanted to, not because they felt they should. 2 months after the abandonment, I received a call from Ricardo. The judge has ruled in your favor on all petitions. The house remains in your name, plus financial compensation for damages. Laura will have to find somewhere to live. The kids are. They've asked to see you. I looked out the window at the sea before answering. I'm not ready to see them. Maybe I never will be, but I no longer hate them, and that's progress. That night, I checked my phone for the first time in weeks. 40 new messages from Laura, from the kids, even from Laura's parents. All begging for forgiveness, explanations, another chance. A message from Mateo caught my attention. Dad, I didn't understand what it meant to take care of someone until now that I have to take care of Mom. She's devastated. I know we don't deserve your forgiveness, but at least tell us if you're okay. I closed my eyes. The temptation to respond was strong, to tell them that I was better than ever, that I had found an inner strength I didn't know I had. Every day that passed without them was a reminder that I could survive without people who abandoned me when I needed them most. Instead of replying, I opened my computer and started writing on the blog I had created as therapy, a blog that, without my knowledge then, Laura and the kids read religiously, hungry for any connection with me. Sometimes the worst betrayals come from those who should protect us most. I have learned that true love is not measured in easy times, but in how we react to adversity. My accident didn't change my family, it simply revealed who they really were. Today, 3 months later, I can walk with the help of a cane. Each step is a reminder that I can also choose to walk away from pain, not just physical but emotional. Some call this revenge. I call it self-dignity, and it's the most valuable lesson my accident taught me. Pedro, my boss, had offered me a transfer to our branch in Valencia. I accepted immediately. A new beginning, far from the memories he told me later, after he personally went to collect my things from the home office. I'm sorry, Laura, but Carlos has requested a transfer to our branch in Valencia. It's been approved. We've come for his things. He's decided to restart there during his recovery, he told Laura, according to what he told me later. Valencia, he's gone so far. Laura's voice broke, imagining the distance, not just physical but emotional, that now separated us. Pedro looked at her with a coldness he had never shown before. We know what happened, Laura, we all know. Carlos was more than an employee to us. He was family, something you apparently forgot. The consequences for them were devastating. The private school where the kids studied discreetly suggested looking for another institution for the next year. Friends began to space out their visits. Invitations to social events disappeared. The prestige carefully built over the years crumbled day by day. Sometimes, when I'm on the terrace looking at the sea, I wonder if all that was revenge or simply justice. If someday I'll be able to forgive them, or if I even want to. The only thing I know for sure is that I'm worth more than they thought I deserved. I deserve people who don't abandon me when life gets tough. And so ends my story, a story of betrayal, pain, and personal rediscovery. I learned that sometimes those who should love us unconditionally are the first to abandon us when we need them most. But I also learned that true strength is born when we decide to value ourselves above toxic relationships. My accident didn't just break my spine, it also broke the illusion of a perfect family. But from those fractures emerged a new man, stronger, wiser, and above all, no longer afraid of being alone, because he has discovered that solitude is preferable to the company of those who see you as a burden.